Release the Kraken!
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Powered by Phelps Game Calls.
And we're back. Welcome, everybody, to the Bugler Broadcast podcast. Today I have a co-host, if you will. It's my good friend and cameraman. You might remember him from last year in the Mouth Tab Mattis series, Dusty Rupe.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming over.
Yes.
Dusty, how's it feel that we're back from the hunt? We've been gone for weeks from our families. How's it feel to be back and back in the swing of things?
Right. Definitely good to be home and see the family. But I feel like we're still missing out on something.
There's still a part missing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that's not missing is a shower.
Right.
You smelled great when you came in.
Thank you.
Can't say so much. Can't say that much for September.
No.
Man, we got stinky a few times.
This was right.
We did find a couple good places to take a shower away from elk camp, but yeah, it was good to be home. I couldn't agree more. It seems like no matter how much a guy gets out in the field and goes hunting, that when you get back and it's kind of nice, you sleep in a little bit and your aches and pains kind of go away a little bit, and then I started getting this little nagging feeling, this little guy on my shoulder saying, you should be hunting right now. Do you realize there's probably an elk bugling somewhere out there? And it's kind of hard to snap back to reality and kind of get back into the old grind of things. One thing I kind of miss about back in my old life, before working for Phelps, I worked at Night Forest Optics with my good buddies down there, and it seemed like I didn't get anything done for about a week after I'd come home from hunting. It seemed like everybody wanted to come by my desk and say, so how was hunting? You know, and they wanted to hear all the stories, and then I wanted to hear their stories too, of course. And my boss at the time, he was so gracious not to get mad. He was probably one of the worst offenders was Mark. He would come over and want to talk hunting too. So I really miss that camaraderie of actually having a workplace environment with other people. But now that you're back, you haven't gone back to work yet. We've been working hard editing videos and stuff, but I know you'll get back to the old water cooler here next week.
Yeah, on Monday.
Yeah. And you've got some interesting characters you work with.
I do.
Probably don't want to talk about that here, may or may not. I don't. They probably would never know, but some of his workmates are into what you call cosplay. That's a fancy word for dress up. They like to wear really authentic superhero, action hero type costumes. So that's interesting. I would like to get inside one of those people's brains. It's probably not nearly as weird as you might think. Probably not too much more weird than us, because we kind of wear costumes a little bit too. When Dusty walked in, the first thing that struck me was, besides not stinking, as I'm sure, I probably didn't smell to him too bad either. But also, he wasn't wearing camo, and we hadn't really seen much of each other in the last month and a half, not wearing camo.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so this podcast, we're just going to kind of talk a little bit. There's not going to be really any probably good takeaway nuggets. Well, there might be, but we'll talk a little bit about elk season. We don't want to give away too much because we have videos to watch, of course, but we will talk about the quality of elk rut this year, and I keep hearing it from everybody. You know, got a pretty good network of friends and other hunters out there, whether through social or just personal contacts, and I keep hearing the same old thing. So it shouldn't have surprised us that what we experienced this fall, and that was kind of a lackluster rut all across the board. So we hunted Idaho, we hunted New Mexico, we hunted Montana, and all across that board there was a rut and there was bugling to be had, but the intensity was not super harsh or super intense.
Yeah.
It was just kind of lackluster. I mean, the bulls would call, but they never really got mad or pissed off, or they weren't super confrontational. And it's weird because every single person I talked to, it doesn't matter where they were hunting, most across the board said the same thing. It's just like, you know, they would get one or two bugles, the bulls would move away or just clam up, and then that was it. That's all they had. I feel like we had a lot of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's super difficult, just because if you're hunting big country, if you just hear that onesie twosie bugle, it's like, oh, okay, he was kind of somewhere over there, but you really need 3 or 4 sometimes, especially in big country, to just kind of narrow down where should we even start walking towards. So that really makes it tough. One thing we found with some success with this kind of calling was the rut was kind of slow, so we kind of pumped the brakes a little bit and went slower. Typically, in a lot of our setups, or not really setups, but our calling tactics, we hike from one spot to the next, or drive from one spot to the next, however we're covering the country at the time. And what we've, you know what? I didn't push record on the headsets. What a novice, man. Dusty,
I've been there.
you're my sound guy. You know I'm not in charge of sound. Okay, guys. So the first half of this is going to be really lame sauce audio. It's going to be super crappy off the camera, but hold please while we sync in these fantastic microphones. And okay,
Hello.
now we should be able to do that. But okay, back on topic. So we slowed things down a little bit. Let's say we heard a bull bugle 2 or 3 times, but then he just kind of clammed up. So instead of just like continuing to wander through the woods, what we did a lot of times is we would sit down. We would sit down, take a break. We'd probably been hiking quite a bit at that point, and let's just sit down for 5, 10, 20. We kind of, sometimes we'd say, oh, we'll sit here for 10 minutes. Sometimes we'd sit there for 2 hours, depending. But within that amount of time, we'd sit there for a while and sit and listen quietly and bugle every 2 to 3 minutes. And sometimes if waiting 3 minutes between bugles for me is incredibly hard. That 3 minutes, that doesn't sound like very long. But when you're sitting there wanting something to happen, it's like super hard. So I would take my phone and I would actually sit there and watch a timer and bugle every 3 minutes or so. But what I found is once we kind of sat there for a while, we started picking up some bugles. We'd hear one over here. We'd hear one over there. And after 20, 30 minutes of sitting there, and sometimes maybe a couple distant bugles, onesie twosies that had kind of started out, and then we didn't hear nothing else. After a while, they did it again, but sometimes they were closer. And just kind of pushing pause on the game a little bit, slowing things down, allowed the elk kind of get a bearing on us, and then they would start moving towards us out of curiosity, and then we could kind of take the game up again. So sometimes thinking outside the box is definitely a great way to go. In New Mexico, the New Mexican elk, they're a-holes. I'm just here to tell you. they're a-holes. You know, Bill Jordan and Primos and all the pros.
Yeah.
They make it look pretty easy down there, but evidently we were not in the same unit
that those guys go because and we had a tag for a unit. We had Phelps, John Gabriel, and I. We had tags in this unit. It's supposed to be a great unit. There's big bulls that get shot there every year, and in my mind, I thought, okay, New Mexico, this is going to be great. We're going to go down there. We're going to hike, and we're going to find a canyon and bugle into it, and we'll probably hear 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 bulls bugling and rutting, and then we'll work our way in and have encounters with raghorns and 5 points, and then finally maybe get a chance to see a big one, or maybe even have the chance to shoot a giant, a true giant. Was it anything like that, Dusty?
No, I feel like we missed a turn or something.
We should have turned left at Albuquerque.
Right.
Instead of right. We turned right at Albuquerque. Turns out
Yeah.
there's not great elk hunting there.
Right. Yeah. It was crazy.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I had an SD card that didn't have enough room on it. I'd accidentally put one in that had trail cam pictures on it. Anyway, we're back. And I feel like we had these high expectations of what New Mexico was going to be all about. And it just wasn't that. And I think in real life, people's life, I think they kind of go that, they make that mistake. You know, you look at high school graduates, they have this idea in their head of what it's going to be like after graduation. No more school, hanging out with friends, long summers, and just nothing but fun. And sometimes that can be a big slap in the face.
Yes.
Surprise! You know, it can be a major slap in the face. So I feel like elk hunting can be the same way. We set up these expectations, these high expectations, these lofty goals, and we think, yeah, it's going to be fantastic and spectacular. And I think half of the fun of planning for elk season is the anticipation of what's to come. It's like, you know, all the plans, like getting ready, and hey, and we can talk about it. And hey, Dusty, I'm so excited. What you've been shooting your bow, and
Right.
and you're like, yeah, man, and I got this new food, or I got this new pack, or I got this blah blah, and
Yeah.
you know, I got this new gear and excited to use it, and then opening day comes, and then it's nothing like we planned for. And I feel like New Mexico was kind of like that. You know, we just got down there and it was just not what we expected. Low in my mind, it was low elk densities. We didn't have big, huge herds of elk. We know we saw 1Z, 2Z cows. You know, we did see like 5 or 6 in one group a couple different times, but most of the groups were very small. There weren't big densities of bulls. You know, you didn't pull into a canyon and hear, you know, 5, 10 bulls bugle. You might hear 2, 3. 3 would be great.
Yeah.
But it usually wouldn't be any more than that. So the first 7 days, 6 days,
Yeah.
man, we struggled. When we were on elk every day. We heard elk every day. We were on elk every day. But the terrain was incredibly tough to hunt. It was rocky. It's noisy, super dry. There was a lot of cover. So there was cedars. There were pinyons. There were junipers, right? Which can be really thick and you can't really see too far ahead. But a lot of times if you have a big draw or a canyon in between you, you can look over there and you can actually pick things out moving around. So, you know, moving to and from the elk, we had to be super, super careful not to get picked off. And then as you get close, well, elk, they look underneath the trees. They see your feet, you know, moving. So they bust you there too. Yeah. So it was a complete different game. It's like we had to take our tactic book and our book of tricks, our playbook, if you will.
I will.
And you will?
I will.
And we threw that thing in the garbage because it did not work.
No.
Who was having success? I think the guys that were sitting on water. This place is very dry. There's very limited water. So it wasn't like, I'm going to out-hustle these guys and walk 5-10 miles away from the road and get way back and get to where the elk are unpressured. No, because the elk didn't really live there unless they have water. And all the water was down low next to the roads. So the elk would have to come out of the mountains every night, come down, get water, fuel up on water, feed, and then they go back to their haunts, and it may go 3 or 4 miles, which is good. But those elk have had encounters. They've been kind of messed up. There was a 2-week season before we got there, and then our season was 2 weeks. So these elk had been pressured, especially around the tanks, water tanks. They drill wells. And they have a big old stock tank, and they fill it with water. And, whether it's electricity or like solar power or whatever, would fill these. They would pump these tanks full of water, and that was how the cattle and the elk got their water. So it was super weird. So you couldn't really just heck with this. We're going to get away way back. That wasn't really a thing to do. But after struggling, we tried everything. We sat on a mud hole one night, a wallow. John, our buddy John, he sat on water and found some success. We chased these things we chased bugles from first light till they bedded down, which they would bed down at 8 o'clock, 8:30. We'd have an hour and a half maybe in the morning of game time, and then it was just done. And there was none of that, we'll wait till noon. We'll go for the midday madness. We'll sneak up in the middle of the day and bamboozle these things. No, because a lot of times they would lay down for a little bit, and then they were back up, and they'd move. So I think, and I don't know if this is true, but I think the ground is so uncomfortable. I don't think they ever really got settled in good.
Yeah. I don't think there's much shade either from those trees really either. So I think they had to keep moving as the sun moved. Plus the rocky and dirt, and there just was not good bedding at all. Yeah.
Typically in big timber country, we find places where elk have been bedding since the dawn of time. There's these great big old dugout beds in the dirt. We just didn't find that. So I feel like these elk were fairly nomadic. Like they kind of stayed on the move. So they would sit there for an hour maybe, and then they would move again. And so if you made your move, you get close. We had these ones one day we had them dead to rights. Had this bull. We'd watched them from. Okay, we're gonna quit trying to call them in. We're gonna glass them up. We glass these elk up. Oh, there's a bull. There's some cows, and we're glassing them. And, okay, they're all laying down. Cool. We drop down this valley, go across, get close, sneak up, peek up. I'm like, oh, there's a cow about 60, 70 yards. Perfect. That we're in them. And I took about 3 steps, and I seen another cow. Well, she was already looking at me because guess what? She could look underneath these stupid trees and see my legs moving. And I was moving at a snail's pace, just like barely moving, but picked us off, gone. So, the guys who hunt New Mexico successfully, especially who don't call, and especially who don't just set water, you guys are next level. You guys are good hunters, and I think they should. Those guys should get some real mad respect right now because it is very difficult. Now, sitting water that's in itself doesn't seem that hard, but finding a good water hole that elk are actually using. Not every single tank had elk tracks at it. And then trying to make sure you're the first one there and making sure you can sit there. I think that takes a lot of discipline. So, it's not just shooting fish in a barrel, so to speak. I think there is, quite a bit to be said about sitting water, but not really for me. But I'm not going to diss on it to the guys who do it because that's, it's a very viable way. So fast forward a ways and I've kind of made friends now with the thought of I may not be bringing home an elk. It had been that kind of tough of a hunt. I was like, I don't think I'm going to get a bull. And then some things changed. But before I get too far, tell me, Dusty, what was your favorite food in New Mexico? All you New Mexico people are probably going to giggle right now. And you're going to call us a bunch of, I don't know, gringos or dummies or pansies or I don't know. But tell me, what was your favorite food in New Mexico?
What was my favorite food or what wasn't my favorite food?
Well, maybe that was a loaded question out of sarcasm. Tell us about what the interesting menu choices we had in New Mexico.
You could have anything you wanted with green chili on it or red chili.
Yeah.
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 Anything.
Not just green.
No.
You could get red. You could probably have gotten both.
Maybe.
If you want to be so bold.
Oh, man.
So where we're from, when you order a chili burger, it's a hamburger, bun, whatever, cheese, smothered in chili con carne with beans, right? That's our kind of chili.
Yeah.
We get down there, and a chili burger is just not a chili burger. It's different. It's a hamburger with all the fixins, but they smother it either in green chili or red chili.
Yeah.
And I think Dusty really liked that chili stuff.
I did the first 3-4 bites.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And then it hit you.
And then it was too much. Yeah. And then it just stays with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forever.
It kind of tears your corn up a little bit. It's not the most friendly food, if you will.
It's not friendly at all.
And I don't know. The red chili was definitely a big turn off for me. I didn't like it. It was like it was just too much, and it was hot, and I do like hot, but the flavor of hot, the flavor wasn't there for me.
Right.
Like a jalapeno hot.
Right.
I like that. I like that flavor, but the red chili hot I wasn't feeling it. No. Now the green chili in moderation was good. We ate out a few times. I ordered a chimichanga, if you will. Yes. And they're like, would you like that smothered with green chili or red chili? And I'm like, neither. Go ahead and put green chili on the side. So they give me a little cup of green chili, and I kind of spooned it on little by little until I found the right amount, which was a fair amount, really. But it was good. I like the green chili a lot better than the red.
Yeah.
In moderation, though.
Right.
Man, you New Mexico folks, you like your green chilies
like it.
Smothered.
Yeah, on everything.
On everything.
Everything.
I'm surprised they didn't have ice cream.
Oh, yeah. Green chili ice cream. Oh, man.
It was funny. We kind of made friends with a guy that had was camped just a little bit down from us, and super nice guy'd come by and kind of shoot the breeze with us every day in the middle of the day, because we'd go back to camp in the middle of the day. It's like, well, I'm not going to sit around here on rocks all day from 8:30 till 7:30. I mean, 30 minutes to an hour before dark, the elk would get active again. But anyway, this fella would come by every day and kind of shoot the breeze with us, and he had quite a few stories to tell. But he brought us over some chili, some
green chilies.
some frozen green chilies that had been roasted, and we had to giggle a little bit from all of our topics. We've been talking about the green and red chilies so much, but anyway, that was a weird deal.
It was weird.
But anyhow, finally after the seventh night, seventh evening, you and I went up to the place we were at on opening morning, which we'd heard a bull, but he kind of Houdini'd us. He just like, poof, gone, disappeared. Yeah. And we went back up in that same spot, and we took a little bit of hiking, and we heard some bugles. And I got super close. We got really close to this bull. I was probably 30 yards, 40 yards from him, but I couldn't quite see him yet in the brush. And then, boom, cow spooked and busted off. But they just ran across the draw. They didn't really know what spooked them. They just knew something was there. So they ran across this big draw and walked across this open face and bugled and stuff. And down the draw, another big bull started screaming, and we basically kind of ran out of time. Yeah. Had we went after that one that was screaming down there right when we busted the other one, I think we'd have had enough time to make it down there and kill him. But you just never know. And I hate to have those close encounters right before dark, and maybe perhaps spook the bull, maybe let him wind us or something. I'd rather go back the next day and just try to capitalize on it and have plenty of work. So that's exactly what we did. We got back with Phelps and John and said, hey, let's go back in there. There's some bulls bugling, and man, we had I don't want to give too much away because the film's coming, but man, we had a great time the next day. The next day would turn out really awesome. We had the kind of callings and the kind of interactions that we'd actually gone to New Mexico for. Yeah. We'd have loved to have seen that every day. But and we had a couple guys telling us, coaching us behind the scenes a little bit, saying, it can kind of be slow, but it's usually during the time we were there, it's pretty good. But all of a sudden it'll hit, like, turn on a light switch, which is kind of like what we find other places, and even North Idaho or whatever. It seems like it'll be nothing, and then the flip of a switch, and you've got mayhem. And that's kind of the way it was. And the next day was really great. We had some pretty good calling, and then we were able to wrap up our hunt really well. I was able to kill a nice satellite bull, pretty nice bull, heavy 5-point. Phelps was able to shoot just a beautiful 6x6. John killed his bull over water, nice 6-point, and in the end it all worked out. And I think that's probably one of the most the biggest thing I kind of want to focus on is, guys, no matter how bleak, no matter how rough the hunt is going, and I kind of let myself kind of pout about it a little bit and kind of dwell on the fact that we weren't having a lot of success. And in the end, it seems like sometimes on some of these hunts, you have to hit rock bottom and get super discouraged and have a lot of despair before you ever find that success. And New Mexico was no exception to that. And but I didn't know. I was kind of out of my element. We were in a complete different state, and these elk were acting a lot different. It's like, we don't even know what we're doing here. But I think in the end, elk are elk, and they are going to do what they do. They are going to rut at some point, and you have to stick it out and just for the amount of time you have allotted, right to the bitter end, believing that it's going to happen for you. Because if you don't, leave early, you're probably not going to tag out. If we had said heck with this and left early, we wouldn't have tagged out. Yeah. So anyway, moral of the story is be relentless, don't give up, and stick it out to the bitter end. And sometimes it's a Cinderella story, and sometimes it's not.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not. Idaho, this year in Idaho, I'd like to say we had a fantastic year in Idaho. We'd had everything but notch tags. We did everything but notch our Idaho tags, and we had lots of bulls answer. We didn't have real good rut frenzies, but we had bulls that were committed enough and curious enough to come in. But we had a great experience. It had a lot of bulls. Did that thing just turn off?
Looks like it.
Okay.
We'll be right back after these messages.
We had a lot of encounters with elk, and the old saying, "Close only counts for horseshoes and hand grenades."
Yes.
We had a lot of close encounters, but it doesn't count for elk. I mean, close, you might as well, 3 feet might as well be 3 miles when you're hunting with a bow and arrow. So we had a blast, had a good time, did everything but notch tags. But we got video of that coming. I don't know. I don't think we're going to do a 16-day, 17-day series, because that wouldn't be fair to make everybody sit through that. But I think there's a lot of valuable content there. See interactions with elk, see interactions with Dusty and his son and my having a good time and saying little funny things and enjoying each other's company. But so anyway, that was a definitely not a Cinderella story, if you will.
No.
And then we packed our bags after New Mexico. We came home, unloaded, reloaded again, and went and met our good friend Trent Fisher. We seen Cody Kellum, and you might recognize those names from Born and Raised Outdoors. Met those guys in Butte, Montana, at another good friend's house, Johnny Burford, and Johnny and Kelsey Burford's home. And we spent the night, had some drinks, built a big bonfire in the driveway, and just had a great time with those guys. And then kind of regrouped and went hunting in Montana. Had Trent and his camera guy Jake.
Yeah.
What do they call him? J-Bone.
J-Bone, yeah.
J-Bone. Anyway, man, we had a blast hunting with those guys, but it was hunting. It was, we had one instance where we had a bull going and we got to call to him and mess around a little bit, and that was super short lived. But other than that, it was just nothing. I don't even know if we can have any salvageable footage to even use for anything. It was.
Yeah.
Let's just say, October, there's a reason, and we didn't run into any people at all, and there's a reason why people do their hunting with a bow for elk in September mostly, and it's because I think, elk are less vocal. We were hunting in a very thick, timbered country where vocalizations is imperative. You couldn't glass them up and sneak in on them. No. Though we did start out the first few days of that hunt over in kind of central Montana and some more open type stuff, but really we didn't find big herds of elk like we wanted. We actually, the first spot, we hiked in 3.5 miles and we had our bivy packs on. I was carrying 50 pounds on my back and everybody else was very close, if not more. And we get in there and take our packs off and we're drinking water and having some food and talking, having some conversation, and we're like, what's that noise? All of a sudden a dirt bike pulls up. This guy had ridden his dirt bike and good on him because the trail was open. It was completely legal, so we can't poo-poo on that. That's a risk you take. But Trent says, yeah, you been up here much? He's like, oh yeah, I spent a lot of time up here. He's like, you see a lot of elk up here? Elk? No, never really seen any elk up here. Maybe once. One time I seen a cow. He didn't seem like the kind of guy snowballing us, No. I think he was truthful. Yeah. But he said he'd seen some mule deer in there and taken some nice mule deer in the past, but elk not so much. And that kind of related to what we'd been seeing. There was just no sign per se. And I got that tip from a good friend that had been in there, but he'd been there early season, and I wouldn't doubt, a lot of you guys who hunt Montana know that elk kind of will summer high. And as towards, the fall, later in the fall it gets, they tend to gravitate down towards private property and lower elevations. And I feel that's probably true about that spot. He'd had some success there early and seen lots of elk, but, we were there a complete month later after he'd ever been there. And it was a different kind of story. So. So anyway, then we left that place, went to another spot. We seen some elk across the river. We weren't quite ready to roll up our pants and wade the river. It was a pretty good river. And but we'd heard some bugles in the night on our side, and we kind of hiked around looking for this ghost bull, if you will. And we hiked around all day, and we just never found what we were looking for. And then the next day, we thought, well, we'll glass those elk up again across the river, and they were long gone.
Yeah,
so
gone.
But anyhow, I guess the moral of the story is expectations versus reality are not always really the same, on the same level. We expect this, reality is usually here. So remember when you're making your hunt plans, plan for success, but also plan for some failure in case you're not hitting your marks where you need to, and know what you need to do in those next steps. My buddy Dan Staten, buddy and elk partner through the Elk Collective, he had tags in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, and he said the same things we did. He was hunting in some spots that were a little more conducive to like sneaking around, a little more opportunity for that, and he was able to capitalize on some of that stuff. Instead of using calling as the main method, he's able to change gears, change focus, and kill elk without calls. And I think that's something pretty important. We all have to kind of, we all love to hear big bulls screaming and little bulls screaming and call them in just with their eyes rolled back in their head. That's awesome. But if you really, really want to make sure you tag out, sometimes you have to put the calls away. You have to be hunting a country that will allow that. If you're hunting the North Country where there's no openings and it's deep timber and brush and you can't see 100 yards, you're probably going to have a really hard time not calling an elk in unless you know exactly where they're at. You can sneak in, maybe post up on a crossing or something. But anyway, I thought we'd kind of talk about our elk season this fall and not try to give too much away because we got film coming. I don't know when we're going to have it edited. We got so much to go through.
I know. I don't either.
We've been working like dogs for the last week on it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, just kind of wanted to get Dusty on here. I probably dominated the conversation. And Dusty's like, gosh, would you just shut up?
I had so much to say.
Yeah. Well,
it's all right.
The good part is now I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to you, Dusty, and let you talk about stuff for a while.
Oh, wow.
I'm not a talker.
He's not a talker.
I'm
He's
not a talker. No. Oh, man.
I'm not either usually, but sometimes when I get talking about elk hunting, I can
go.
I can talk, and it's usually most of it's a bunch of foolishness. Probably no value at all, but I can
tons of value.
I can talk diarrhea of the mouth sometimes. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and listening. And is there anything else we need to tell them? Let's see. Hey, so now that I'm back home, I need to get back into the listener questions. I've got a ton. Thank you guys so much for calling in your listener Q&A. I just haven't got to it yet. I'm going to get back in it, start answering questions the best of my ability. After I just told you about our elk season, you'll probably think, well, this guy don't know what he's talking about anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and start making some more of these podcasts with the listener questions. So anyway, keep those coming. The super secret hotline, I don't even know what
the number is.
Maybe we'll flash it right here somewhere. See this number right here. Yeah.
208-963-5389.
Just call in that number, leave a message. I will read your message on air and answer it to my best ability. Your question can't be over 3 minutes long, so if you're long-winded, you'll probably get cut off, and I apologize for that, but that's what we got. So anyway, thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Get your bugler swag at thebuglerbrand.com.